College athletes are in the public eye now more than they ever have been. The difference between student athlete and unpaid employee are hard to spot from a distance. Universities make millions of dollars in revenue from their men's basketball and football programs, while coaches and players have been in the news recently for recruiting violations that jeopardize the amateur status of those athletes. When schools like Texas, Georgia, and Notre Dame make over $60 million a year from football, how much do the athletes deserve for their part? Many of these athletes are African American, and the notion of William Rhoden's $40 million slaves in professional sports can be correlated to college as well. The only difference is these college athletes, instead of receiving millions of dollars, receive an education. The value of that education is varied by various factors, including the quality of the university, price of the education, and time that they actually spend in the classroom. With many of these athletes leaving school early and graduation rates dwindling, the value of an athletic scholarship is falling as well. Schools have been capitalizing on black athletic success to gain money for quite some time, but athletes like Ed O'Bannon and Tyrone Prothro are now speaking up. O'Bannon, a former All-American forward for UCLA in the mid-90s, was one of the first athletes to speak out against the NCAA. O'Bannon, along with a former Alabama receiver Prothro, were featured on HBO's Real Sports as examples of college stars who feel they should have been compensated for the millions they helped generate for their respective schools. The compensation O'Bannon and Prothro are referring to is in regard to the university revenue produced by ticket sales, TV contracts, video games, athletic apparel, and other avenues of profit which capitalize on the celebrity of the college athlete. The universities use this money in various ways, but give none of it back to the athletes. Critics like John King, who represents O'Bannon, say the cost of a scholarship to the university is just an extra chair in the classroom, and therefore these schools are not risking much, while they gain incredible amounts of money. However, while the cost to the universities may not be great, the benefit to the athletes is still there. Athletes get top-notch facilities and training sessions from basketball or football experts, as well as weight training specialists. You also can't forget the exposure and free promotion time the top-billing athletes get. So what needs to be done? Current and former college athletes aren't happy, and universities are often unwilling to pay what the athletes deem to be fair. That is why illegal recruiting violations happen. The athletes find money and security with boosters instead of the academic institutions themselves. When athletes graduate, they lose their medical coverage. If a football player sustains concussions during his senior season that still need medical attention for several years after football, all the medical bills post his college career are charged to the athlete. Colleges should be forced to extend medical coverage up to 5 years for any lingering effects of a college-sustained injury. After those 5 years, if the individual still needs medical care resulting from injuries sustained in their sport, the NCAA should have a separate fund set aside which can cover all medical expenses for those players. While the NCAA praises themselves for the education the athletes receive, 28 teams in this year's NCAA basketball tournament had a graduation rate below 65%, and only about half of Division I football players graduate. I propose when a scholarship agreement is signed, it is for 4 full academic years. Further, I believe the only reason a school should revoke a scholarship would be for arrests and conduct detrimental to the program and university. What is considered detrimental would be subject to a board review, with a board made up of the university president, athletic director, and other administrators. This is to say a scholarship cannot be revoked for lack of on-field production or for a career-ending injury. Just because a player doesn't put up the numbers you thought they would or is medically ineligible to play, they still retain their scholarship and ability to graduate with a debt-free education. To help protect schools if a player is medically ineligible, the scholarship should not count against the scholarship limit in those respective sports. Lastly, as soon as a player graduates, they need to receive what amounts to royalty fees for any use of their likeness in video games, jerseys, commercials, and any other promotional use by the universities. As soon as a player graduates, if the university still makes money off those athletes, they should be entitled to compensation. With those 3 small changes, I feel the long-term lives of college athletes, particularly black athletes, are greatly improved and the risk of being a college athlete is lessened. It will be easier to get a 4-year degree and will not allow these universities to exploit their many black athletes after their playing days are over. Small changes can make a world of a difference, and I believe these 3 policy changes to the NCAA's 2 major sports would exponentially improve its current state.